Tabor. We're going to be talking through tonight's Tuesday MLB slate. Not a good night for me. I didn't stack Cleveland. Sheets, it was one of the nights where they hit a bunch of home runs. So did you end up stacking Cleveland? How'd you do?
I did. I did. Not in the big one. But I did. Did all right in some of the single entry. I did okay in the ball four with the Clevelands, and I actually I had Washington, who looked like they were going to be decent in the bigger one, but the Yankees kind of busted for me as the secondary stack, and obviously Logan Gilbert didn't do so great either. But I think did I ended up making money? Remember when you lose the big buy and you're kind of struggling. So I think I might have made like a few dollars, something like that.
Nice.
But but I'm ready to get after it for today. Is there any one thing I didn't look at yet for today? Is there any? I imagine in 15 games there's got to be some weather concerns out there. Is there anything?
Well, there's lots of yellowish stuff, but not anything that seems terrible.
Okay.
I did want to say something about Pivetta last night. So Pivetta was in my biggest buy-ins. You guys who saw my early builds from the site. Pivetta was my second highest owned pitcher. Actually, he might have been my highest owned pitcher at one point. But then when they announced the other start, that the opener thing, you don't even know for sure because it wasn't a guarantee that he was opening for Pivetta. But Pivetta, of course, goes out and scores more points than like twice as many points as any other player on the slate, and has 42 fantasy points and 13 strikeouts, coming in as a long reliever, as the long man. It just is it's a little frustrating because I took him out of all my lineups when I saw that, but just something we're gonna have to keep an eye on going forward. So wanted to point that out. All right. With that said, I'm going to share my screen today because Sheets is in the Hamptons. So we're going to look at mine and we're going to go from there that way. 1 second. And let's do this. All right. So the games might be a little bit out of order for the DraftKings stuff, but we'll go game by game on here. So we got the Dodgers in Baltimore again. Look, Wells has been really good. Michael Grove, this is a tough matchup. I think both sides of the offense here are interesting. Again, 90-degree weather in Baltimore, slight winds blowing out to center. I think this is a spot where I'm actually interested in both offenses, even though I actually think Wells isn't that bad a pitcher, but I just believe in this Dodgers offense. And when they're going to be in a great hitting environments, it's hard for me to just write him off. Having said that, looking at Wells' game log is not going to make you feel great because he really doesn't have too many hugely awful games on his resume. So sort of debating what to do here, but I do think, again, I like the over in this game. I'll give away that thing. I think this game is going to hit 10 plus, and it won yesterday, and I think it's going to happen again today. So I have interest in both these offenses and not getting either pitcher. How about you?
Yeah, my initial look, and again, this is a million game slate with going to have a lot of concentrated ownership in Houston. So I mean, in Coors with Houston. So I'm looking for stuff to do, and I currently have the Dodgers and Baltimore is kind of on the outside looking in. And pitching wise, very, very small sliver of Wells, but really nothing to speak of. So I'm kind of passing in this game.
Yep, I understand it, but I'm probably gonna roll with it again.
Okay.
All right, Pittsburgh and Cleveland, much better pitchers on the mound tonight. Probably enough to just keep me off of this game entirely. How about you?
Who do we have? We have Keller and
Logan Allen.
Yeah, I mean, I currently, as far as the pitching goes, I'm not getting to either of the pitchers. I'm still getting to some Cleveland though. They're still cheap, Obviously, their matchup is much worse, but I'm getting to a little bit of them today. I mean, they're not the top stack, obviously, but I don't think I have much. Again, I ran some builds early. It's not that I'm getting a lot of 5-mans with them. Actually, no, but not really. So basically some 3-mans maybe with Cleveland. That's where I'm getting the majority of my exposure, actually. But they still remain cheap. So let me just look at the Cleveland stacks that I'm getting. Rosario, Kwan hitting first. I have them hitting first and second at 4K and 4,200. So I am getting and Jimenez 3,900, Josh Naylor 3,900. So yeah, I'm still getting to some Cleveland.
Yeah, zero interest here. Keller's really good. I'm gonna pass on that one. All right, but again, look, I mean, look, they did well for you last night, and Chiefs. You don't usually play the team scoring the ceiling run games back to back, so maybe you're on to it this week. San Diego, Toronto. This is an interesting spot here because we saw how much Manoah struggled at the beginning of the season. They sent him down to the minors. He had the one rehab start, and he was really good in his first start back. And I think that I probably am not going to play him, but I'm going to probably keep an open mind to it in the future as he stays cheap. I don't think I can get to I definitely understand the argument for a San Diego stack. You have a huge stadium upgrade. Manoah has struggled at times. You do have a good bullpen behind him, but I can see an argument for both offenses. I'm probably going to just stay away from this one as well.
Are the Padres going to be the team people play if they don't play Houston or no?
No.
Okay. That's who actually I'm getting. Is San Diego as the top owned, for at least as my exposures under Houston. In other words, I haven't forced Houston out yet. You know what I mean? I just kind of ran my stuff. But I do have the Padres, and it is an interesting case, right? Because Manoah obviously has talent, and he's been struggling, but maybe, like you said, maybe he worked out some of his stuff in the minors, and he's better. Mm-hmm. So I'll have to take another look at it, but right now I am getting that. And yet at the same time, I'm getting a tiny little bit of Manoah as well. And I'm also getting a little bit of Musgrove, but not a lot. So I would say that my priorities in this game would be Padres, and that's pretty much it. But if I get to a little Manoah and a little Musgrove, I'll take it.
Yep. All right, we'll move over to San Francisco and Cincinnati. I think this is the game where I would have thought people would be going. I'm just going to take a quick look at the hitters and the ownership. Actually, it's not as much as I would have thought. So I think this is a spot I want to do some stuff here. I think that you could make an argument for both stacks, but I especially like the San Francisco stack against Weaver. And I think that is a really, really logical way to go. Again, we always have to worry about pinch hit stuff with San Francisco, but I like this lineup. I think you're going to see the ownership go up a little bit as the day goes on because they're cheap and they'd be easy to stack with cores. Like I don't think it's going to be an unusual build, but I'm in on it, and I'm totally okay if you want to play the Reds too. I just had a hard time getting to a full stack, especially as they're expensive and you sort of have a bullpen-ish game. But it is great hitting weather in the second greatest hitting stadium in baseball, so. I'm in if we want to go ahead and fully stack the Giants. I think they're a really, really good option tonight.
You have Conforto at 3,400. Just to add a little color to what we were saying. You have Conforto at 3,400. You have whatchamacallit, Brandon Crawford is 2,600. Lamont Wade at 3,800. Jock Peters is a little more expensive, but even he's 4,400. These guys, I don't know these particular guys, but San Francisco in general does come with pinch hit risk, as you mentioned quite a bit. So I'd be curious to see which of those guys.
Yeah, I think the safest would be Conforto. Of the lefties would be Conforto, and the safest. Well, we know that JD Davis is safe because he's facing a righty and he's a righty, assuming that he's in the starting lineup. But I think
I'll tell you a really interesting. So yesterday, the one guy that we knew was going to get pinch hit for was Slater, and he hit the home run to start off the game.
And he got pinch hit for, and it's like 2 at bats later. So we were right, and he still hit the home run to start the game off.
Yeah.
Well, so wait, where do you have San Francisco ranked? Did you say?
Yeah, I'm not. Maybe it's because there might be. I don't want to say popular or whatever, but my initial, and I just did GPP builds, whatever. I didn't really get to too much of them. But again, this is like really early, and it's hard to dispute that all those guys are really, really affordable. So I'll probably take another look at them a little bit later. Who are the pitchers in this one?
Sorry, what?
Who's the pitchers in this game?
It's Weaver and DeScalfani, but DeScalfani.
Yeah, I'm not getting any of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to take this one, give this one another look. See what happens when I run this first, and I get like all this Houston. It kind of like, okay, now I have to like struggle to see who else I would take. As a matter of
Right.
fact, this is what I'm going to do, just for kicks. What I'm going to do is if I put 0%, I'm going to put 0% Houston just to see like what the next group I would be getting. So there it is. So San Francisco would be a team. So my top teams so far, if you X'd out Houston, would be 3 teams I mentioned already. So San Diego, Cleveland, and then San Francisco. So I'm in with you on San Francisco.
Nice. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the Mets and White Sox here. It's Giolito and Carrasco. If I'm not mistaken, at least Carrasco looked a little bit better his last couple. I think he was really good his last out. Yeah, he pitched 8 innings against Arizona, which is sort of crazy to see. But he's been, he's looked a little better. He's cheap. I'm not probably going to play him, but if there was a cheap option, I think that he's a reasonable guy to take a chance on because we've seen the White Sox struggle at times, although they've gotten much better lately. I also think Giolito is a reasonable gamble, and I am just not quite getting to the hitting. If you wanted to stack the White Sox, I'm not going to tell you that's wrong, but I'm not particularly all that excited about the hitting. It is interesting to see Carrasco at 6,200 with just a 4.1 run total for Chicago. So I think both pitchers are long shot viable, but not my favorites.
I think that both pitchers are in play here. I like Giolito's in play every slate. And not to shape my narrative, but righties against the White Sox are in play every slate. So Carrasco is, listen, that I don't, for those of you who follow this, I don't usually play him. But the pitching is not that great today, to say the least.
Really not.
And to take a pitcher against the White Sox at 6,200, I think you could do a lot worse. So I'm my initial build actually have given me 30% Carrasco.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So and those are the ones with the Houstons. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm putting Carrasco in play.
Yep. I think both these guys are. You're not interested in the offenses.
No.
All right, moving on to Arizona and Atlanta. It's Elder and Davies. Like, we finally get a price down on Elder, but like, I just don't take pitchers against Arizona. It's just not something I do. They don't strike out. They're a pretty good offense, and it's just hard. It's hard for me to play Elder even at 7,800, which is a very reasonable price. The Braves, I think, are going to be the team everybody tries to get to. Would try to get to, but they're going to find that it's basically impossible. So I am going to try to force the Braves in.
There it is.
Tremendous option against Zach Davies. They have I think they might even, we don't have a Houston in Colorado run total yet, but I think this is the highest other total. They have a total of over 6. I'm completely in on this team, and I'm going to try and find a way to squeeze them in with Atlanta.
I don't know how I'm gonna be able to do that. I actually don't mind the Diamondbacks a little bit here. Again, just trying to find something to do aside from Houston. So I like playing Diamondbacks. I like playing Carroll. I like playing the guys there, and if you can get Atlanta in, great. I mean, like everybody's like 8K, right? I mean, I don't know. It's
not like Arizona's cheap either. I mean, Carroll and Marte are 54 or 59.
That's true.
They do have some people. Walker's 52. So it's not actually that much more you're spending.
Yeah, I guess not. So right now I have like in the builds where I X'd out Houston, I'm actually only getting 12% of them. So I guess they're like very, very whatever. And I'm getting just as much Atlanta in those builds also.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could get Atlanta 5-mans though. Probably not.
Well, the thing that's going to dictate what happens with Atlanta is if Rosario is out, then you might see Kevin Pillar at 2,300, which will just make the stack easier to use. It also
That's true.
It more popular.
That's true.
But maybe we get that super cheap guy in there. This is like an all-star team though. It's really like I can't even disagree with the pricing being so high on these guys. It's just they deserve it. Um, all right, we can move on to. I'm really so far we haven't run into many pitchers that I like, which I think is sort of probably going to be the common thinking.
Well, there's very little, we already got to my one. I have 50% of one guy, then I got 30% of two other guys, and one of them I just mentioned. So Carrasco, I have
Yeah,
30% of, and these other guys I have aren't that great either. So we'll get to them later, I guess.
yeah. This game is basically the Miami St. Louis game. I think you could make an argument for Montgomery for sure, and I think it's reasonable. I am not overly excited about it, but never am about Montgomery, and I think he's fine at 8,200. That's pretty much all I have in this game.
Yeah, I have less. I don't even have Montgomery. So I'm
There you go.
passing this game.
There you go. All right, we'll move on to Washington and Chicago. For what it's worth, I'm just going to take a quick look again at the weather in Chicago. Yeah, the little 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in certainly does hurt. It's pretty wild to see the Cubs still with a 5-run total with 10-mile-an-hour winds from center. But it is Patrick Corbin. So what do we do here, Sheets? We've got the wind blowing in, and I'm not going to stack a wind blowing in game at Wrigley. I do like this lineup for the Cubs. Christopher Morel probably still hits a home run. But I don't think I'm going to be doing the stack thing with that wind blowing in. So, and I also think that, look, you can make an argument for Tyon at 6,800. I know that they don't strike out a ton, but he's 6,800. So I'm sort of, I can see the arguments every which way, but probably just more on the uninterested side for the most part. I think Tyon might be my most interested piece in this game.
Yeah, I agree with what you said and the sentiment behind what you said. Like Tyon would be the most interest I would have in this game, and even that's not a lot. You don't want to take pitchers against Washington, so you don't really want to play Tyon, even though he's really cheap. So I guess it's all right, and you don't really want to stack teams on a 15 game slate into the Wrigley wind, even though it's Corbin pitching. Because
Right.
even Corbin's been has some tricks this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's
So,
been better a little bit.
yeah, so I'm probably going to be off of that game as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you just look, Corbin, I mean, he's actually had 2 incredible starts out of his last 3 against Seattle and Texas, no less. It's really, really strange guy. He just, every other outing, it's like he gives up 10 runs, but it feels like, but then he mixes in like a gem in between. All right, we'll move over to Texas and Tampa Bay. Eovaldi and Taj Bradley. I'm a little surprised that no one's going to play Taj Bradley. He's really talented. I know it's Texas, but he's really talented. He's on my list, and Eovaldi is probably a expensive piece of a little bit of chalk that I'm going to just skip.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that Eovaldi was going to be so owned. I'm not getting all that much of him actually. So I guess I feel okay about him. Yeah, oh man, well, okay, 10-15%, whatever, not a big deal.
Yeah.
So I don't have too much of interest in that. I guess that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's move over to Detroit and KC. And again, I want to check the weather here in KC because I just want to see if the wind's blowing in a little bit today. Has me probably a little less interested in the offenses, but I think that you could have made a case again with these teams of every which way. I do think Skubal is a really good option. I think I probably end up playing him a decent amount. And I wouldn't even mind Lynch just because we know how Detroit can struggle. But at the same time, I think you could definitely be open to stacks here. It's just don't love the stadium in KC in general for stacking, and I don't love the fact that the wind's blowing in. But it is also hot and humid, so it probably negates it a little bit. So I'm definitely okay with the idea of the stacks here, but neither of them are priorities for me. How about for you?
Yeah, I like Skubal here. He freaking fires it, and Kansas City sucks. I mean, you know what I mean? Like I don't mind him at all. I mean, again, the more you go through this slate, the more you realize that the pitching is pretty fishy. So I think he's got upside. He's got a good matchup, and I don't know. I like him a lot here, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quite get to Lynch, but I see your point. Is Lynch a righty or no?
Lynch is lefty.
Okay. Yeah, so I have Skubal right below, honestly, right below Carrasco as far as ownership goes. So, and he's probably going to move up when we get to some other guys later. But because there's one guy I have a little too much of that I think you'll talk me off of. So I do like Skubal quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I'm in on it. Consider I don't like the pitching. I'm in on that. I am also in on Hunter Brown. What's stopping me from this play is that it's probably the worst weather on the slate, and they're saying that there could be a delay. That's enough to talk me out of my, hey, let's play the Hunter Brown play. But I do think Hunter Brown is definitely, you can't cross him off at 8,100 against this week of an offense, even in Coors. So I'll take a shot on Hunter Brown. I have no problem doing that at this price. I also think that Houston is very, very clearly the chalk, and I don't think it's bad chalk. I also think that there's no way I'm going to play a full Houston stack. I would say that I think that we've had some games at Coors where everybody's been like 20% owned. I don't think this is going to be one of those days. I think that Houston's going to have guys in the single digits, which makes it more like you could get away with it, but you probably have to get the pieces perfect. If I had to pick out favorite, individual bats, I guess Diaz, Tucker, probably Jolks or McCormick would be my favorite, but I'm probably going to try to be off of Houston full stacks as much as I can just because of the ownership.
Yeah, the tough thing about playing Houston is I normally wouldn't mind playing like a chalky stack if I knew I could get like really different with some good upside pitching also. You know what I mean? And just the pitching just sucks.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how I would do any of this. So I'll probably end up forcing myself off of Houston in the big buy-ins. I'm probably just going to end up playing something like San Diego or Cleveland, though, which none of that's particularly appealing. But maybe you're right. Maybe try to play. We'll get to some other options, obviously, but maybe try to jam Atlanta in with some of these cheapo pitchers. Maybe that is possible after all. But anyway, yes, Houston is the best stack on the board by a lot. And probably not going to play.
Yep. If the ownership is low, I'll take a shot, but I don't think that's going to stay that way. All right. Boy, how about Shohei, man? It's like, I swear, I only have watched a certain number of his that I just happen to pop in and the game will be on or something, and you go to a bar, or you go to a restaurant, and every time, I swear, he hits a home run every single time. It happened last night when he hit the home run to tie it up last night. But anyway, this is another one that I am not especially interested in any particular aspect of it. I think you can make an argument for Sandoval or Herman. I have no problem with them. I'm just not going to play them, and I'm not all that interested in the offenses.
Yeah, tiny little bit of Herman in my builds, but just by accident. And that's pretty much all I have. I will comment that that it was 0-0. Canning was pitching a great game, and he was through 101 pitches, so he was obviously done. They threw him right out there for another inning.
That's wild.
And then he gave up, whatever. Yeah, I mean, boy, oh boy, that's like almost unheard of now to throw a guy out there with 101 pitches for another inning.
Yeah, no, it's true.
But I have nothing from this game.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Boston and Oakland. So we've got, hold on, let me get my pictures right here. Chris Murphy and Medina. Look, I like attacking Oakland. It sort of is a funny thing for me, though. The Red Sox, it's just such a huge downgrade for them playing on the road. And I'm playing in Oakland versus playing at home in Fenway. It's just a huge park downgrade. It's already not the most powerful offense in the world. Devers is always a great play. I am probably not going to do it tonight, but I'm certainly considering it. And then you have the long relief of Murphy. I'm not going to take the pitchers for the Red Sox. If you wanted to play the cheap A's, they definitely fit in and allow you to maybe get an Atlanta stack in, but not all that excited about it.
Well, talk to me about this for a minute, because my current builds have me getting 30% Murphy, and so again, I didn't even look at it. I just built it, then I looked at it, and I'm like, who else? Who is this guy? And then I see he pitches 2 innings a game, whatever it is, and then I'm like, Then I see that he's probable starter, but then I think back at, okay, so they're going to probably have him as long relief, just like they do with Pavetta. And am I not going to, and now it's obviously a different situation. Pavetta's like actual pitcher that's had start, that we were going to play, but why not just do the same thing? Just like
he hasn't pitched more than 3 innings in a game.
I know.
I don't even think it's a consideration.
Okay.
Like, I mean, if you talk about him versus the other guys in that price range, like Michael Grove is a better play at 5,700 than Murphy is at 66. Murphy, when your ceiling is like 15 fantasy points, it's really, really hard to play you. And I don't even, I mean, that would take like everything going.
Perfect. Very good.
Yeah. So I can't.
What about Medina at like $2?
I can't. I just think that all the other pitchers we mentioned in this range.
No, I'm just thinking of ways to get Matt Olson, all these Atlanta guys in. I'm just thinking.
But it doesn't matter because Michael Grove, Carrasco, Daniel Lynch, probably even Luke Weaver are all better plays than these guys. Tyon. I can't in good conscience play Medina yet. Okay. He did pitch well against this team last time out. He's been better. But he's starting to figure things out. Maybe it's not the worst idea in the world. I just think there's so many better spots to it. I mean, you have a full run higher total for Boston than the other teams that are surrounding him. I would rather play Carrasco. I would rather play those guys personally, if I had to.
This makes my life easy.
But I watch now you're going to get the same Pavetta type thing again.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Then what happens? It's like, yeah, but he's literally never pitched more than 3 innings.
I just can't bet on a guy who has not yet pitched more than 3 innings. I don't know how I could just assume. No matter what happens, I think it's a bad play.
Right.
I think Medina is a better play because at least he can pitch innings if he's going. All right, Chiefs, why don't you start off the final one? I think these are probably.
If this is the case, then listen. If you didn't like 100% on Logan Gilbert busting last night, how about 100% on Brian Wu busting today? Because that's what you're going to get. You're going to get Brian Wu at going to be 50% plus in the big buy-ins, even in a big slate. Is literally no pitching. He projects to be my highest owned guy right now as well. He's got pretty much everything going for him. He's got price. He's got matchup. So yeah, I guess I like him, and that's pretty much all I have.
Yeah, Minnesota basically is the kind of the nut matchup for righties. They just strike out so much more than everybody else does. So I definitely am going to play Wu as my main pitcher as of right now. I also think Bailey Ober on the other side is completely.
Oh, I forgot about that. Sorry about that. So Bailey Ober was the other guy I was getting that was going to get ownership also. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, I would not play those guys together. I actually disagree on 14-game slates. I've mentioned this point before. I don't think that playing pitchers from the same game is at all something I ever want to try to do.
Because you're going to need those points more in a big slate.
Yeah, it's a 14-gamer. There's just got to be somebody else. You know what I mean?
Right.
Get me there. So I'll try to separate those two guys. But I think that Ober and Wu will probably be my main guys that I'll play with the Tyons, the Scoobles, the Giolitos, the Carrascos, the Taj Bradleys. Those are the guys I'm going to be mixing in. But Wu and Ober will be my two favorites.
Let me ask you something: Is Ober going to be like one of the popular pitchers or not? Or
no? Ober is going to be popular, yeah.
I mean, can we play Seattle?
I just don't understand what the reasoning is.
Well, because Bailey Ober is going to be popular, and I want to play something except for Houston, and I haven't been thrilled with anything else yet. I mean, really.
Well, there's 14 games. Right. It just seems like the wrong thing to do to stack against one of the better pitchers on the slate. Maybe the best pitcher, not named. I don't know. Actually, I don't even know who that would be. Bailey Ober hasn't given up anything this year. He has, I believe he's made, 17 starts. He hasn't given up more than 3 runs. He's given up more than 3. He had 4 runs in 1 start. Nothing ever worse than that. It's not exactly a guy I want to try to pick on just because it's something. You know what I mean? So I have no
maybe San Diego at the end of the day.
San Diego makes sense. So for me, it's going to be I like the Dodgers in Baltimore, so that's already going to make me those lineups will be different. I'm going to try to force in Atlanta and then San Francisco as my priorities, and I don't mind using pieces of Houston, San Diego, and a mini Cincinnati stack. Those are my favorites.
Yeah, and we'll watch those yellows for the weather and stuff, and we will we'll be around at 6 o'clock, right?
Yep, absolutely. And by the way, if you have the concern for Woo, you can pivot over to these other cheapos that I think are still viable. But I don't think.
Let me share something else. Let me share my FanDuel. So I'm playing. I'm playing in a way that I don't usually play. So on FanDuel, they have that 150 on whatever, and I almost always just like play one of those and like play a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm gonna actually play 4 lineups in that one. I never play that many. So I'm gonna play 4 lineups and like that's it. Like on FanDuel. So I'm just trying to see what I built for now. Like Ober and Woo are my 2, and I'm getting like different types of stacks, like Padres, Cubs, actually, Diamondbacks, getting some Yankees over there, which is interesting, and even some Tampa. So it's funny, like I'm not even getting any Houston on FanDuel, and I didn't even adjust for anything, so that's interesting.
This projection on Chris Murphy is ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, again, so it's cool. Maybe it'll fix, or maybe I'll just like force it out, whatever.
It's just pretty wild to see a guy who's projected. Well, Saberson hasn't projected for a number he's never hit before.
Right.
It's possible. I mean, it's going to happen at some point. He's going to pitch more than 3 innings in a game, but why am I guaranteed that that's today?
Yeah, I know. I don't understand that either.
Yeah. I think if I had to pick anybody on FanDuel to pitch, I think you could afford the top guys. I'd maybe go for the ceiling with Giolito or Eovaldi over there more. I just don't see you needing it as much on DraftKings. But to try and get that quality start is something you want to try and make sure of and hopefully get the win as well. I don't think Brian Woo is quite as good a play on FanDuel as he is on DraftKings just for that win equity and the fact that he does tend to not throw a ton of pitches. All right, but it should be fun, guys. We'll be live with you at 6 Eastern, as Sheets mentioned. My friends are all going to be leaving town soon, so I'm back on track. It was sort of like an extended All-Star break for me, so I'm ready to get back after it, and I'll be live later, and I'll have my picks up this afternoon. I got to go to the doctor, but have my stuff in the premium this afternoon.
Great.
All right, sounds good, everybody. Good luck tonight.